Hi YouTube. It's been a hot second. I probably look a lot different if any of my original subscribers are still here, still getting my videos, if you even remember my stuff. It's me now, a lot older. Um, yeah, I wanted to make a follow-up video to this video that I made probably a little over 10 years ago about my story of sexual abuse. Um, a lot has changed in the last almost 10 years. I've processed a lot of things. I've came to a lot of realizations, and I kind of wanted to give an update on both my healing process, the factors that went into it, and where I stand now. If you're wondering, you can check the original video. It's still up. I kind of ramble a bit. Audio is not the best. But it gives a description of what the abuse was, how long it went on for. The SparkNotes version, I was raped for 6 years by a close friend, and I had started to process all of that. And that's when I made the video. It actually got a surprising amount of views. Not anything, comparatively now it's nothing. But back in the day I was like, whoa, that's a lot of views, my channel has like 10 views. So I wasn't expecting it. And that's kind of what prompted me to go forward with this. So where to start? Back when I made that video, I didn't realize a lot of things. There were a lot of toxic patterns within my family. I did not realize my mom was abusive. I didn't realize that anything about my home life was abusive. And I bring that up because I really do think that plays a large role in why I was eventually raped. When we look at our home life and the structures that exist within it, we can often see that a lot of abuse and a lot of later abuse that occurs can be traced back to earlier patterns that either we're repeating or that we have experienced before and we're just having happen again. For me, I had a very emotionally abusive mother, and she opened me up to emotionally abusive friends, which is what led to this. And more so, my mom wasn't willing to protect me. And that, again, led to her having this friend having uncontrolled access to me and letting this happen. So that was something I didn't really realize at the time when I made the first video. I couldn't even process that my mom was abusive. I was still really holding up the thought that, like, hey, she's a good person. She's just a victim. She's like, no. So that's the first thing. It's just kind of realizing, like, the abuse wasn't my fault. I wasn't protected as a child. And I think for a lot of childhood sexual abuse survivors, that's something we have to remind ourselves, is that there were adults in our life that should have protected us. And whether by circumstance, by toxic family structure, whatnot, we weren't protected. So that's something I've kind of started to work through. It's still quite hard to think about and process, but you got to take it day by day. Another thing I wanted to point out with that original video was that I was not in therapy in the slightest by that point at all. I had actually asked my mom to let me into therapy, or let me go find a therapist, and she was like, nope, I don't want to tell your father, that kind of stuff. Again, toxic, abusive family structures. So I was not in therapy. A lot of the advice I gave in that last video was from personal introspection, which, I mean, it's still decent advice. It's definitely how I initially started dealing with the abuse and kind of even coming to terms with the fact that it happened, that it was a valid form of abuse, and that I had been a victim. But getting into therapy, I've really learned how deeply set certain triggers are, whether it's smell, sound, touch. I've really learned that toxic shame is a thing. Even now, I feel a lot of shame towards it. And it's been, I mean, the abuse ended like 11, 12 years ago. So that is very pervasive. And inner child work has been quite hard, at least in my experience, because I think it takes me to this place where I start to think about that inner child, and I just kind of get angry almost. I'm really just angry over the whole situation, and I kind of direct it at her, and she doesn't deserve it, but it's what comes out. I have also moved to a different spot with my relationship with that specific person that did, that raped me. If you'd asked me during the video when I had filmed it over 10 years ago, I probably would have told you, oh, she's pretty awful, but, I wouldn't have said much. Now, I have a lot of anger. Like, I'll say it, I have a lot of anger. I have almost texted her family multiple times to kind of out her. I've gotten much more loose about just saying, hey, I was raped. And for people that do know her, I've said her name. And I think that has been probably one of the bigger changes since that last video, is that I am more willing to share my story. I'm not hiding anymore. So I'm really proud of that. But yeah, I wanted to make this video just to say that it does get better. I still have so much to process. So like any sexual abuse survivors out there, like, you are valid. Your experience is valid. It was horrible. And if you're like me and you're still processing this stuff, like even like a decade later, like, don't feel bad. Like, it's a process. It's a journey. We take it day by day. Specifically also child-on-child sexual abuse survivors. I know you're out there. They're not common, but I know you guys are out there. I am here for you. I understand that. You can always reach out to me. It can feel very confusing and invalidating to have such an experience because, they're, on the one hand, we're like, they're our friends. Like, this is normal. Everybody does this. But like, looking at the power structure of it, looking at how your boundaries were trampled over, I think deep down we all know when we've truly been violated and abused. So you're not alone. There is support out there. Therapy has saved my life. I've been in therapy for 6 years. And I'll probably be in it for quite some time. But that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It's really good that I'm working on myself. And I hope that whoever's watching this can get that help that they need to. But yeah, so this is just my quick little update. If you guys ever want to hear more about toxic family situation, how I've grieved a lot of what I lost during my childhood, or any other videos that really have to do with that specific thing, please let me know. To any followers that actually did watch my video years ago and is seeing this now, like, shout out, because that's pretty cool. But yeah, so it gets better. Keep fighting.